Hello, this is Michael with Access Woodworks, and today I'm going to show you how to make your very own chucking scraper. Okay, so there are three things that you need to make your own chucking scraper. The first is a piece of tool steel in order to make the scraper blade. For this particular project, we'll be using a 1/4 inch by 1/2 inch oil hardened tool steel. That's O1 tool steel. I don't recommend just picking up a plain old piece of steel bar from your local home center. I typically get it from Grainger or McMaster Carr, or even Amazon will sell it. The next thing that we need is a handle, and we're looking for a piece of material to turn our handle out of that's about 1.5 inches in diameter at least, and about 16 to 18 inches long to make our handle. I'm going to be using this piece of crepe myrtle from some prunings that we had made earlier this year. I do like using this particular wood for tool handles because it's fairly round, it's easy to get into shape already. It's a very hard wood, it's very dense, and it has a very clean, crisp grain to it. It's very light colored, very consistent. It looks very, very nice. The final thing we need is a brass ferrule that's going to go on the end of the handle and kind of hold the very end of it compressed for the when the blade is inserted. I'll probably be using this 1/2 inch brass cap gas fitting, and I'll be able to turn this on the lathe as well when I'm turning my handle to fit. But in reality, you can use any brass fitting. Old brass fittings are great for making ferrules out of, because they clean up really well when you turn them down. And you can just do it with a metal file or something, so it's not that difficult. That's why I have a box of brass fittings in my shop area that I can use as spares. So those are the only three things that you need to make your very own chucking scraper. So we're going to get the tool steel, cut it to length, and start the process of grinding down and making the blade. Okay, so the first thing I did is I took my 18-inch long bar of tool steel and I cut it to 9 inches in length. And now I am going to mark the scraper end on it. And I had worked this out in CAD earlier. The dimensions that we're doing are, we need about 1/8 of an inch down from one side, and then I need about 3/8 on the other. Well, let me do this. Let me mark this with a China marker so you can kind of see it. I'll be grinding it to the lines that I had scribed on there, but just so you guys can see it. And then we're going to do 3/8 of an inch on the other side. 3/8, and I'll scribe that. So what I have is a mark here, and then I have a mark here. So that is actually right about, that's there, and then this mark is up here. So hopefully you can see where that is. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have a short leg, a 90-degree angle, and then a long leg. Okay, so to figure out exactly where my lines are going to go, I'm just going to use this, and we want about a 90-degree. I'm going to kind of line that up with the edge of my scribe marks, and then I'm going to scribe it in to my tool steel so that I can go over to the grinder and put this edge on. So there we have scribed. The material we're going to take off is here and then here. So that we'll have a nice 90-degree angle to do our tenons with on the lathe. Okay, so the next step in our process is going to be to grind the material off to the lines that I scribed on here earlier. And so we'll get to doing that. It will not take very long. Make sure we need to cool the steel off periodically. We want to make sure we have a 90-degree on the end of this. So we'll keep checking it. Looks like we're not quite there yet. I just have this nice wide Wolverine platform added onto my grinder. It gives me the ability to use the side of the wheel a little bit more easily as well to get a nice clean edge. I think this Wolverine jig is probably one of the best things I bought for my bench grinder. Looks like we're getting pretty close there. Looks good. A little bit more on the end, I think. And we'll be there. So I think we have a nice tight 90 degrees there. Check this again. More on the square. So I think we're done with that aspect. Okay. Okay, so our next step here is going to be to mark the dimensions of the tang onto our oil steel for the scraper. And so the tang itself is going to be 2 1/4 inches long. We're going to want, since the material is a 1/4 inch thick, we're going to want the tang to be a 1/4 inch wide at the bottom, and we'll flare that out to say maybe 3/8 of an inch at the top. So first we're going to scribe a 2 1/4 inch mark here. So hopefully you can see that. At the bottom, we're going to want this to be about a 1/4 inch wide in the center. So since we have a 1/2 inch total, we know we're going to be over, let's see, it's about 1/8 of an inch from the end. So that should give us about a 1/4 inch wide tang between those two. And then we know we're going to want to come in about, let's see, maybe a 1/16 on this side. So we'll mark a 1/16 inch scribe here, and over here about a 1/16 of an inch in. We'll put a mark, and then we will just take our scale here. We'll scribe here from where this point is, where these two lines intersect, down to there. So let's see if we'll line this up properly. Come on. And we'll mark that down with our scribe, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. So we got a 1/4 inch in here, and we got about 1/8 of an inch or 1/16 there. So it's pretty hard to see. It's right there. And we'll scribe that out. And then back to the grinder so that we can cut the rest of this tang off. So when we're done, we want a very small shoulder here at the top of the tang going into the rest of the blade, and then we want the width of the tang here to be a 1/4 inch. And then so what we'll have is a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch here on the ends. And then the last operation we do on this before we go to hardening is that we will round over the edges to make it easier to insert into the handle once we complete the handle. So here we are back to the bench grinder to finish up our tang. All right, so the next step in our process, now that we have our Tang ground down, is I do want to have a nice sharp shoulder here. So I'm going to do, since we do want a straight shoulder, what I'm going to do is put a little mark here so I can see better when they're even. So we want to do it up to there. There we go. That'll make it easier to see. So I feel like this is taking a little too long, and so I'm going to do what you do is reposition and get a bigger tool. So got this big old file here. And so we can get a better edge on there. Now let's check our width. I think it's pretty close, a little bit more. Yep. Let's take a look here. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So, yeah, maybe round those corners off at the top a little bit more. But I think we've got what we're looking for here, more or less. About a 1/4 inch down there at the bottom. Looks pretty good. We'll round that off a little bit and then we'll be done. So what I want to do before we harden it, there are some burrs on here and a little bit of scoring, so I do want to run that over some sandpaper to clean that up. And there we go, just a little bit of sandpaper on a nice piece of flat glass gives us a nice clean edge, took off that scoring, and we are ready for the next step. Now that I've completed the process of forming my blade, we're now ready for heat treatment and tempering, which I will show you in the next video. I really hope you enjoyed this, and you now see that it's not that difficult to make your own tools in your shop. Please subscribe below.